There are houses in the UK that no one dares to enter. Streets where even the bravest walkers cross to the other side. Behind locked doors, in rooms sealed for decades, something waits. Something that feeds on fear. Tonight, I'll take you inside 4 of the most terrifying haunted houses in the country. These are not just stories. These are real places with real encounters, told by those who survived to speak about them. Once you hear these stories, you'll never look at your own neighborhood the same way again. Story 1. The house on Bramblewood Lane. I've lived in this quiet UK neighborhood my entire life. Most houses here are neat, semi-detached with tidy gardens. But at the far end of Bramblewood Lane, there's one house that everyone avoids. You know the type: windows clouded with grime, ivy choking its bricks, and a roof sagging like it's ready to collapse. Locals say it's been empty for over 20 years. Yet sometimes, when you pass at night, you'd swear you see movement behind the curtains. Kids dare each other to run up to the gate, but no one ever lingers long. Last autumn, I started walking my dog Max past that house every evening. At first, it was uneventful, just a creepy old building. But then Max began acting strangely. He'd growl at the gate, tail tucked, refusing to move. One foggy evening, I followed his gaze to the upstairs window. There, through the misted glass, was a pale face staring back at me, expressionless, eyes sunken black. When I blinked, it was gone. I told myself it was a trick of the light. Yet, over the following nights, Max's behavior grew worse. He would pull at his lead, desperate to cross the road before reaching the house. Then I started hearing it, a faint tapping sound, like fingers drumming on glass, echoing from inside as I passed. Curiosity got the better of me. One night, I stopped at the rusted gate and called out, "Hello?" My voice was swallowed by the heavy, unnatural stillness. Then, from inside, came the slow creak of footsteps descending the staircase. They stopped just behind the door. The door creaked open a fraction, and a freezing draft rushed out. A voice, almost a whisper, said, "Come in." I ran. For days, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that whisper again. Against all reason, I went back, this time with a torch. The gate screeched open, and I stepped into the overgrown garden. The front door was slightly ajar, as if waiting for me. Inside, the air was thick with dust and rot. My torch beam revealed peeling wallpaper, collapsed furniture, and a staircase vanishing into darkness. Family photos lay scattered on the floor, every face scratched out. The temperature plummeted. My breath turned white. From the hallway, I heard a child's laugh, soft, distant, then closer. "Who's there?" I whispered, my voice trembling. The laugh echoed again, this time behind me. I spun around, nothing. I shone my torch toward the staircase and froze. A small figure stood halfway up, no taller than a child, its head tilted unnaturally, the same face I'd seen in the window. Its mouth opened, releasing a distorted scream that grew louder, filling the house. My torch flickered and died. In the pitch black, icy fingers brushed my neck, and a voice hissed in my ear, "You shouldn't have come back." I bolted out, running until my lungs burned. When I finally looked back, the house was silent, dark, as if nothing had happened. The next day, I brought my neighbor to prove to myself it was real. But the house, it was different. The door was boarded shut, as if it had been sealed for years. My neighbor swore it had been like that all along. Now whenever I pass Bramblewood Lane, I hear faint tapping from the upstairs window. And sometimes when the fog rolls in, I see that pale face staring back at me, waiting. Story 2. The widow's house on Hollowmere Road. When I first moved to Hollowmere Road, the street felt like something out of a postcard. Rows of Victorian terraces, neat hedges, and friendly neighbors who waved when you passed. But everyone avoided the house at number 46. It was said to have belonged to a widow named Eleanor Price, who lost her husband during the Second World War. After his death, she became a recluse. Neighbors claimed they'd hear her crying through the walls late at night. Then, one winter, she vanished. No one ever saw her leave. The house has stood empty since, windows blackened, the garden wild with thorns. I never believed in ghost stories, so when my landlord offered me the place for cheap while it awaited renovation, I took it. The first night, I noticed how cold it was inside, even with the heating on. The air felt heavy, pressing down on me. I brushed it off as bad insulation, but then came the knocking. At exactly 3:15 a.m, there were 3 sharp knocks on my bedroom door. I froze. Heart pounding, I whispered, "Who's there?" Silence. I opened the door, empty hallway. The next night, the same thing. 3 knocks, same time. When I opened the door this time, I swore I saw a figure, just for a second, at the end of the hall. A woman in a black dress, veil covering her face. She turned the corner, disappearing into the darkness. I barely slept. The following day, I found a dusty photo album in a drawer. Every photo was of Eleanor with her husband. Their smiles faded with each page until the last photo showed her standing alone in front of the house. Face expressionless, eyes hollow. That night I decided to stay awake waiting. At 3:15 the knocks came. I didn't move. The door slowly creaked open by itself. Standing there was Eleanor. Veil torn, skin pale as paper, eyes black voids. "You're in my house," she whispered, her voice like dry leaves scraping the floor. I stumbled back, but she moved closer, her footsteps making no sound. The walls seemed to close in, the air freezing. She raised a hand, and in the dim light I saw her fingers were bones wrapped in decaying skin. "Leave," she hissed, "or stay forever." The lights flickered and died. In total darkness, icy hands grabbed my shoulders. I screamed, running blindly, crashing into walls until I found the front door. When I burst out into the street, the night air was warm and the house looked ordinary. Silent, I didn't return. The landlord said I left the door wide open, but I know I locked it behind me. To this day, when I walk past number 46, I see a shadow in the upstairs window. And sometimes, if the wind is right, I hear 3 knocks, faint but clear, following me down the street. Story 3. The abandoned cottage near Blackwood Forest when I was 17. My friends and I used to take long walks through Blackwood Forest, just outside our town. It was a place of dense trees and endless mist, the kind of forest where even during the day, it felt like twilight. Deep inside the woods, there was a small abandoned cottage that everyone said was haunted. Locals whispered that a man once lived there with his daughter. One night, during a storm, both vanished without a trace. Search parties found only the cottage empty, except for claw marks on the walls and a single child's shoe on the doorstep. After that, nobody went near it. Of course, we were stupid and curious. One cloudy afternoon, my friends dared me to go inside alone. I wanted to prove I wasn't scared, so I pushed the warped door open. The smell of damp and rot hit me. Inside, it was dark, colder than outside, and completely silent except for the sound of dripping water. The place was decaying, furniture overturned, fireplace filled with ashes long cold. But what unsettled me most were the drawings on the walls. They looked like a child sketches figures with long limbs and hollow eyes, all surrounding a smaller figure in the center. I heard the door creak shut behind me. My friends had promised to keep it open, but when I spun around, they were gone. Only darkness pressed in. "Hello?" I called, my voice trembling. That's when I heard its soft humming like a lullaby, coming from the upstairs room. Against every instinct, I climbed the stairs. Each step groaned under my weight. At the top, the hallway stretched into darkness, the humming louder now. The last door on the left was slightly open. I pushed it, and the room beyond was empty, except for a rocking chair that swayed back and forth, though no one sat in it. The lullaby stopped. I turned to leave, but a cold hand grabbed my wrist. I looked down, there was nothing there. Then, from the corner of the room, a child's voice whispered, "Help me." The chair stopped rocking. A shadow began to rise from the floor, stretching taller and taller until it touched the ceiling. Two hollow eyes glowed faintly in the darkness. The voice spoke again, distorted this time. "You shouldn't have come here." The temperature plummeted. My breath turned white. The shadow lunged at me, and the last thing I remember is screaming as I threw myself down the stairs and out the door. When I scrambled outside, my friends were waiting, laughing nervously, saying I had been gone for 5 minutes. But when I checked my watch, an hour had passed. To this day, I avoid Blackwood Forest. And when the wind carries that faint, eerie humming, I swear it's the same lullaby I heard in that room. Story 4. The Locked Room in Ashworth Manor. Ashworth Manor sits on the outskirts of my town, hidden behind rusted gates and towering trees. It's a massive Victorian mansion, long abandoned, with a reputation that makes even the bravest locals cross the street to avoid it. They say anyone who spends the night there doesn't to come back the same, or doesn't to come back at all. I'm a photographer, and last winter I decided to capture the manor's decaying beauty. The caretaker, an old man with trembling hands, gave me the keys and warned me, "Whatever you do, don't open the door at the end of the west wing." Inside, the house smelled of mildew and dust. The grand hallway was lined with portraits, faces of the family that once lived there. Each painting's eyes seemed to follow me as I moved. I set up my camera, but the atmosphere was so heavy, it felt like the walls were breathing. As I explored, I found the west wing blocked off by a heavy wooden door with chains across it. The caretaker's warning echoed in my head, but curiosity, always my downfall, got the better of me. I forced the chains loose and pushed the door open. The corridor beyond was freezing, lined with cracked wallpaper and old mirrors that reflected my torchlight in strange ways. At the very end was another door, this one painted black and covered in scratches. The handle was icy to the touch. When I opened it, the air hit me like a wall stale, suffocating. Inside was a single room with no furniture, just a bed frame in the center and claw marks covering every surface. The floor was littered with feathers, as if from birds that had died there. Then I saw it, a journal lying on the floor. The pages were filled with frantic handwriting, each entry more unhinged than the last. The final page read, "It comes when the lights go out. It takes you piece by piece until you're not yourself anymore." Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind me. My torch flickered. In the corner, something began to move slowly, unfolding from the shadows. It was tall, its limbs twisted at unnatural angles, its face hidden beneath long matted hair. A voice, hoarse, almost human, whispered, "Stay with me." I stumbled back, fumbling for the door, but the handle wouldn't turn. The creature crawled toward me, its movements jerky and insect-like. My torch died completely, plunging me into darkness. I don't remember how I got out. The caretaker said he found me unconscious by the front gate hours later, my camera smashed. When I checked the photos later, most were black. But in one, barely visible, was a figure standing in the west wing hallway watching me. The manor is still there, decaying, waiting. But sometimes at night, a faint light glows from that locked room, and a shadow moves across the window as if it's searching for someone to join it. These were 4 of the most terrifying haunted house encounters from across the UK. Each location still stands today, silent, waiting, and shrouded in mystery. Would you dare to visit them? Or would you rather stay far, far away? Let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced something similar. Because sometimes, the most ordinary houses hide the darkest secrets.